Welcome back, Crackle Addicts. Get it? Because, Crackney. I'm Lupinefiasco, this is Daily FaB Gameplay, and today we're playing Arakni Slipped Through the Cracks. What we do here is review replays of games I played on the Talishar.net client days or weeks ago, after enough time has passed that I lose my bias and can more objectively judge the quality of my games. I'll talk through turn cycles as if I were taking them now, giving my thoughts on the lines I would take, and comparing them to the lines I did take at the time of recording. We either learn from my mistakes or reinforce good play patterns with the goal of tightening and optimizing our gameplay in the future, to take down paper events and walk away with that shiny, shiny cardboard. If you haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to my channel. It is the best free way to support me and to make sure that you see every new episode of Daily FaB Gameplay in your video feed. Until I'm sure that I'll commit to keeping this list up to date, I'm keeping it private, but there is a link to my other deck lists on FaBery in the video description below. You'll also find a link to my Patreon. Subscribers at the Arc Lightning tier and higher will get access to my matchup guides for those decks forever. Want to tighten and optimize your gameplay in real life? Use my affiliate link in the video description to buy your very own Codex journal, and be sure to use code LUPINE10, that's LUPINE10, at checkout to receive 10% off your order. Finally, Daily FaB Gameplay is brought to you in part by Hemel from The Bazaar. It's never been more affordable to play in the flesh and blood. Players have been buying the cards they need from Hemel for years. I started buying from him in 2023 and have never found a better deal. The Bazaar's prices are the lowest for singles, full sets, and class sets, including new releases. Pre-order High Seas set bundles now, and pre-order singles after spoiler season ends. Pre-orders are available to ship internationally or for in-person pickup at US Nationals in Vegas. Message Hemel on Blue Sky, Discord, email, or Twitter to see what he can do for you. Now, let's jump right into the action. Right at the start, I want to note that Kayo has 69 cards in his deck. I don't think this game is going to go to fatigue. I certainly am not boarding for fatigue. I'm bringing in a clean 60. Our Kayo strategy is just do better numbers and be disruptive. We do know, of course, that Kayo does have disruption available. Send packing, Command and Conquer, various other attack. I don't believe that Erase Face matters into Slippy. If we were Marionette, then yes, the fact that our cards aren't Assassin is irrelevant, but for Slippy, the actual hero text is your first attack with stealth has go again. Razor's Edge says target attack with stealth gets +3. Correct me if I'm wrong, I don't believe any of our cards care about being Assassin. That might be wrong, but I'm just thinking about the disruption that Kayo has. Meanwhile, our disruption is, of course, very, very good. What is going to stand in our way is Kayo's Armor Suite. Brute is rocking 8 points of armor up front, and then 3 points of armor on the back end. If he ends up using Sash defensively, though, that is a value loss. And of course, Flesh Bag being defensive Intimidate means that it happens before any of our reactions can be played, so if we are really banking on playing a reaction from hand, maybe to buff up a Bonds of Agony or get a Persuasive Prognosis over the top of blocks, then Flesh Bag can be very impactful. But for the most part, we're just playing our game. Kayo's playing his. We're going to utilize our large number of 3 blocks to block out the disruptive options or the big damage turns, and then come back in with our disruption. And Kayo only has so much armor available and so many 3 blocks in his deck, with a larger number of 2 blocks, non-blocks. We lost the die roll. We will need to go first. I would like to Arsenal to Shelter from the Storm if I can, and the best way to free up my hand in order to do that is to send Dagger. We give Kayo the opportunity to filter, but I don't really care about that. If Kayo wants to give us cards to block out these daggers, then he's perfectly welcome to. We are, for our part, just going to put a few cards back in deck, pitch the Double Trouble, and I believe pitch the Infect. possibly play Art of Desire Body, depending on what Kayo is doing. What I am considering is that I do want to have a Codex target in my graveyard. Ideally, it's Leave No Witnesses or Command and Conquer, but just based on our opening hand here, I would like to have literal something. So I am going to pitch the Infect and then play Art of Desire Body. I'm not expecting this to connect if Kayo is blocking my Claves with 3 blocks. I'm assuming he has something available to block here as well. But we do get a Send Packing, and considering that we're arsenaling the Shelter from the Storm, that's pretty good. Why am I arsenaling Shelter instead of a stealth attack like Art of Desire Body? It's because I want to play it around Pulping, which means that I need to have a D-React in my arsenal so that I can play around the Dominate. The hand that we draw into is reasonable. We have a few lines available. We can pitch our Prognosis to attack with Clave. That's 1 go again. We can then flick our other Clave to clear up a Dagger slot, play the Spinneret, make a Calicera, send Infiltrate for 6 go again. Depending on how Kayo does or doesn't block, he might still be marked after blocking the Infiltrate for 6. We get to send our Calicera for 1 go again, and then end the turn on Leave No Witnesses, which means we do not need to use our Shelter from the Storm here. We can play out our entire hand and then save the Shelter to block on our next turn. Let's just take a moment to see what Kayo has done here. He has pitched a Reckless Swing and a Pummel and then discarded another Pummel. So this is pretty wild. Big Pummel Kayo is not what I expected. I would have thought this is more of a Rhinar build, but so far it is not working for him. So the correct line here, as far as I see it, is just take 6 and let Kayo end his turn. What I'm going to do instead is play the Shelter. What I did not realize at the time of playing this game is that because Kayo is very likely to block the Infiltrate for 6, the Calicera follow-up will have go again, which I didn't consider. I was thinking that we used our Slippy ability on the Infiltrate, and the Calicera would not have go again, but it is more likely that Kayo just blocks, stays marked, and we get go again on Calicera, and they get to end the turn on Leave No Witnesses. So if I could have saved the Shelter from the Storm here, I would have. At the same time, it isn't terrible that our arsenal slot is open. We'll have Leave No Witnesses in graveyard, so if we do draw into Codex, then Codex Leave No Witnesses is an option. We do, in fact, get 6 blocks out of Kayo. So at this point, we send the Calicera. It will have go again because it is attacking a marked target. And now we get to send Leave No Witnesses. And this probably just gets covered by armor, but that's still fine. We have to get through the armor at some point. Savage Sash is probably done blocking. Kayo discards Mighty Windup, makes 2 might, and then plays Cast Bones, making exactly 4 might, so good for him. Revealing some very strange cards. Yellow Mighty Windup, yellow Pack Call is not what I would have expected to see in Kayo, so this list has already lost me. We do know that there's another Reckless Swing, potentially in hand, and we know that there's another Cast Bones coming, so these are very likely to get chained together. What are we doing on our turn? Well, we have a few options, and they all depend on whether Kayo uses Fleshbag. So what I would like to do here is send Infect for 3, go again, Bloodrot on hit, get a block out of Kayo, then use Tunic and pitch Justinic to send CNC for 6, and Arsenal Infiltrate. And I think that is the best way to use these cards. I don't love sending the Infiltrate here. I think we are, based on what we saw, really, unless we rip an E-Strike or maybe a Reckless Swing off the top, we don't really get anything super playable. Kayo here cashes in the Fleshbag, and of course hits the one card that we would have preferred not to lose. Even if we lose the Justinic, I'll use Infect Tunic to pay for CNC, and then Arsenal the Justinic, and maybe be sad about it if we don't draw a a way to convert it on our next turn, but that's what Crown of Providence is for. But instead, losing the CNC is a big deal, and maybe it would have been right to just play the CNC, and that's the easiest way to play around Flesh Bag, just pitch, infiltrate, just a nick, send 6, get cards out of Kayo, Arsenal, Infect, or do it the other way. Instead, do I think that Tunic is the best way to convert our hand? I don't. I guess sending Clave here is fine. We could have just... Oh no, because Kayo isn't marked, so the Calycera doesn't have Go Again. Yes, Clave is the best way to use our resources. It also, maybe baits Kayo into blocking if he thinks we're playing Mark of the Black Widow. But we are going to hit for 3, we'll give a Blood Rot, we're going to get our CNC back and then Arsenal it, and just waiting to see what Kayo has cooking. We got 6 mites and an agility, so we are potentially in some danger. We do have Prog Justin. I mean, this hand converts very well. So we have Prog Justinic into Pain in the Backside into Command and Conquer. We're going to see what Kayo has cooking. I mean, just ripping a Savage Swing, Savage Feast out of Arsenal, getting the discard, which means 12 Go Again draw, is pretty good. We want to not block here, or we at least want to keep Prog Justinic. We probably also want to keep Pain in the Backside because it attacks for 4 and blocks 2. And as long as we're keeping things, we should probably also keep Double Trouble, which means that we don't want to block. We can just cash in some health, or at the very least, we just block later in the turn. So we are going to undo this. We block later in the turn if Kayo is going to end with something like Command and Conquer or Send Packing. We can use our 3 blocks then, probably block with Double Trouble Justinic, and then on our turn send Pain in the Backside into Calycera into CNC. But if I can get away with not blocking here, I would really prefer that. So going with the non-blocks, we'll go down to 24. Notably, we still have all of our armor. If we did want to start cashing in some blocks, it just, again, depends a lot on what Kayo has cooking for the rest of this turn. Let's see what the follow-up to the Savage Feast is, and if we think that that is also something that we need to block. Got an E-Strike for 5 Go Again. Based on what we saw off the top of Kayo's deck, it is reasonable that this last card in his hand is a Cast Bones. I don't think we should block if that's the case. I think we really want the disruption if we are going to face another Cast Bones turn. So we can go to 19, be 14 points below our opponent. But we're going to send Prognosis for 6, take a card out of Kayo's hand, into Pain in the Backside for 4 into CNC. Potentially also, so what the sequencing here needs to be Prog with Justinic, into Pain in the Backside, hit with Clave, into Pitch Double Trouble for Calycera, which would have Go Again because Kayo is marked, into CNC. The Prog for 6 also potentially prompts Kayo not to block just because we have so much behind it. The problem with sending Pain in the Backside first is that yes, Kayo is now marked, but the Calycera is getting Go Again from Slippy's text. So if Kayo is blocking 5, then yes, we're going to hit with the Prognosis, which is great. But the downside is that Kayo loses the mark, so the Calycera no longer has Go Again because we have already used Slippy's text on Prognosis. So we really should have led with Pain in the Backside, or we really should have led with the Prognosis, and then Pain hit with the Clave, Dagger, CNC, so we lose a point of damage. Looking at what Kayo still has in hand, it is just Swing Big Blood Rush. So Kayo's turn is just Swing Big for, what is this, 13, which is good. Very impressive. Something I would prefer not to deal with, but we can deal with that. It's not so bad. We are going to even up the life totals here. We are supposed to attack with the CNC to clear out our arsenal. This is still fine, but I don't think this is ideal. I think we do want to attack with the CNC here in case we draw into Codex. I mean, we don't. And in fact, the actual best way to use this hand, considering our life total, is to just block 13, put our entire hand and Whispers in front of the swing big. I mean, does this hand convert well offensively? Yeah, we could block for 6, take 7, send 7 with E-Strike, but we have a CNC in Arsenal. We need a way to clear it and then have Codex, if that's how the turn lines up. And now we have a Quicken. So we get to just pass back to Kayo, and if you've played Kayo, then you know that without agility, there is a really good chance that your hand just doesn't do enough. And we see Kayo rolling Scab Skins, unfortunately getting a 4, which is good for him. We've got a Pack Call coming in for 6. What I would like to do on my turn is assume that Kayo is going to keep something for Arsenal, follow up this Pack Call by pitching into Mandible Claw, and then Arsenal a card, and we get to do Command and Conquer for 6 go again into Leave No Witnesses. Which means that I want to block with these 2 Tarantula Toxins, I want to keep a clear Arsenal, and I also don't want to bank on Kayo blocking the Leave No Witnesses. So I like these blocks. I like just, let's block with the Tarantula Toxins. Our turn is going to be CNC Leave No Witnesses. We keep a Tunic available for our next turn in case we draw into Codex Blue. We get to Clave for 1 go again, Codex, Tunic, CNC, and we also get to Calycera, Codex, CNC. But just having the Tunic available is always nice. We're going to send 6 go again. Hopefully Kayo blocks this. If he doesn't, then I am still sending the Leave No Witnesses to keep a clear Arsenal, but it is better for me if Kayo does respect it, because now he does not have an easy block for Leave No Witnesses unless he has a 3rd copy of Reckless Swing, which would be unfortunate. Even then, he's playing on a 1-card hand, so I'm not the most unhappy about it. We are going to see how this Leave No Witnesses does. Apparently connecting. And so we are going to get a blue, a yellow off the top of the deck, and a red from Arsenal. That's a good one to get. And we even make a silver from the deal. So far, seem to be stabilizing. Draw into, oh my god, he's running No Fears too. Jesus. Drawing into Codex. So we have an interesting line here that we can take. We only get to block with 1 thing. And I think the way that I want to navigate this turn is I believe I want to block with Infiltrate, send Prognosis for 1 go again, have the Razor's Edge in order to get over the top of blocks, and then Codex Leave No Witnesses. I think that is the best way to play out this turn. Alternatively, we block with Razor's Edge, we send Infiltrate, Dagger, CNC. No. We want to keep, if we're going to block here, we're either going to block with Infiltrate so we can prog for 4, or we're going to block with prog so we can infiltrate for 6 into Leave No Witnesses. But at the same time, CNC is more impactful against Kayo with very little armor left. Leave No Witnesses gets covered by a 3-block and Bonebreaker. So I don't hate this line, because this is the line that lets me CNC off of Codex, which is going to be impactful. We even banish a Pulping, which isn't the best card we could have banished, but isn't a bad one either. We are going to get to potentially play this Pulping. Coming in for the Clave, it should have just been, oh no, it couldn't have been Calycera, never mind. Yes, the Clave is correct. Waiting to see what Kayo is going to do about this CNC. Our line is going to be now Tunic into CNC. Discarding a Beast Within, that's pretty good. Not bad for Kayo. We'll see if he wants to respect the CNC or if he even can, but from being down 14 points, we're now only down by 2. We're going to have a 6-card hand starting on our next turn. We will ponder, Arsenal, whatever it is, draw 4 cards, and have Kayo's Pulping that we can play. So we're looking pretty good to get back into this game. Kayo's giving us 2 premium pieces of Arsenal Disruption even. Take Up the Mantle, not the best card to have an Arsenal, but not the worst either. We're just looking at an E-Strike for 7. What does our hand do? Our hand does Infiltrate, sorry, our hand does Spinneret into Infect, into Razor's Edge, into Flick a Clave, into Take Up the Mantle. To find, I guess, Prognosis is not the bad one. I mean, we could also just send 14 damage, 12 damage up front, and then 2 damage from the Blood Rot, and then follow that by pitching Take Up from hand to play Pulping, which means that we just take 7 here. Alternatively, we could block with Spinneret, because it's 3 offensively or 3 defensively, and I don't super care as much about offense. We're going to be pushing lethal this turn, and I also need to just stay alive. If Kayo can block this out, we've seen 2 Reckless Swings so far, there's a good chance, based on everything Kayo is running, No Fears, Cast Bones, it would not surprise me to see a 3rd copy of Reckless Swing, so just maintaining some health here is not the worst idea either. We don't have an easy way to get the Calicera value from Spinneret, so I really don't hate just blocking with it. Infect, Razor's Edge, Flick a Clave, Take Up into probably, I mean, Prog isn't bad depending on how KO blocks. It's unfortunate that we don't have a Bonds in here. Even an Infiltrate is not the worst thing that we could get. So I think this is fine. Honestly, if I'm going to navigate this next turn, I think we do just keep Infect, and Take Up is just 3. We also clear up a dagger slot in case we draw into what I believe is the 3rd copy of Spinneret we have in our deck. We might have already played 3. I know we've played 2. Okay, I was already marked, Ethan. God. So yes, I think that this should not have been Prog. I think that this should have been Infect. Kayo is preventing 4 currently, so he will take 3, and then we will banish a card. We reveal a Blood Rush, so Kayo has already now banished Blue and CNC, so we know we're facing a Blood Rush turn, and our follow-up now is going to be Pulping, which should take KO to 6. Notably, if we had done Infect, KO would be at 4, and then the Blood Rush would take him to 2, so what I would be looking to do here is Flick a Dagger to put KO down to 1, which kills him to his own Beast Within, it kills him to the next Flick. I think I punted that turn quite a bit by using Prog instead of just keeping it Infect, and of course misleading all of you into assuming that KO was not already marked because I didn't pay attention to his hero icon. We've got a Wild Ride coming for 8 go again. I don't know what KO's follow-up is going to be with 2 cards. It could be anything, any 2 for 6 that is actually a 2 for 8 under Blood Rush. We can block 9 without having to spend our Codex. I mean, we can block with Tunic, we can block with Crown, we could even give up Flick Knives. I really want to keep Codex because I want to Codex Leave No Witnesses. So, do we need to block this Wild Ride? I would like to. It doesn't need to be for a lot, I just want to respect the 3rd copy of Reckless Swing by staying above 2 points of life. The worst card in our hand is Leave No Witnesses, because if we get to keep the other 3, then we get to Clave for 1, Close the Chain, Savor Bloodshed, Calicera for 5 go again into Codex Leave No Witnesses. Alternatively, if we can keep the Bonds Codex, we get to Calicera for 1 go again into Leave No Witnesses CNC. I think this is a fine block, given what I suspect I want to do with the rest of this turn, which is Calicera CNC, which I like quite a bit. Which means that we could take this and go to 3. I think blocking with Crown here and staying at 5 is not the worst idea. But being at 3 doesn't kill us to Reckless Swing. KO is already pitched 2, banished 1. We know that he is not about to find 1. And he won't even be able to Reckless Swing our CNC anyway. So I think this is fine. Going to 3 here is okay, and then we save Crown in case We need to crown away CNC. Okay, this line is wrong, and I will very quickly be undoing it because, again, Kayo has Apex Bonebreaker. Not only is Callistra CNC more damage, but it is more impactful disruption, right? Kayo doesn't care about Leave No Witnesses. Kayo's gonna arsenal a card from graveyard, discard something, block with a 3-block and Bonebreaker, and then have a 3-card hand to kill us from 3. The CNC here is just good. We know that Kayo just got a Beast Within into his arsenal. He wants to replace it, keep that 3-card hand, and that's fine. We're going to Flick Knives here, putting Kayo to 4. CNC will put him to 2. If he was going to flip something that wasn't that Run Roughshod, if it was another copy of No Fear, one of the 2 remaining copies of Blood Rush, maybe he did end up finding that Reckless when he just dies. So this is really nice. We've got E-Strike coming for 7 go again, and I am assuming that the follow-up is going to be Mandible Claw for 2. With Kayo at 1, and with us having Bonds in Arsenal, we really only need... we don't need to keep anything. Because assuming that Kayo doesn't have a No Fear, we can just Bonds Flick. What I would like to do is keep Kiss of Death so that I can Kiss Bonds Flick, force more out of Kayo, which means that we probably just block with Crown, Pain, Body for 7, and then block the Mandible Claw with Bonds from hand, and then Kiss Bonds Flick. Just see what Kayo had. If he has the No Fear, that's pretty bad for us, but although No Fear isn't floating prevention, so we're actually totally fine. We just need to not die, and we need to play around the remaining, whenever Kayo's Reckless Swing comes back. So blocking 7 here is good, and then blocking the Mandible Claw with Bonds to keep Kiss. All sounds great to me. What that also does is if Kayo has the No Fear to somehow get out of this situation and stay alive, it means that we still have a Clave. Crowning there seemed good. Seemed unnecessary, but it seemed fine. It just lets us, really informs us of what our next turn is going to be, so this is, and now, effectively the same turn, it's going to be Kiss Bonds Flick. And we will see if Kayo can get out of that. Blocking around the Razor's Edge will not keep him alive. The only thing that keeps him alive here is blocking the Clave and playing No Fear, but then that just gives us full tempo. And Kayo is just going to call no blocks and pack it in. So we managed to get there against what I would call an unconventional Kayo list. Playing a lot of cards that I would not expect to see in Kayo overall, and also just fat stacking Slippy. I don't know if Fatigue was an option, or if Kayo was just playing around the possibility that we would end up going long enough to fatigue him, but in any case, the game ends well before Fatigue. And we just managed to get there with some pretty good play, in my opinion. I think I navigated some of those turns pretty well. Made a few mistakes, which we were able to undo, but in general, starting to hone in at least a little on the Slippy play patterns and optimal play lines, keeping the arsenal free for Codex, maximizing the value of Codexes. Finding the CNC is a lot better than finding the Leave No Witnesses against a hero with so much armor. So, in general, this was a good learning experience for me, and I hope it was for you as well. If so, be sure to spike that like button. My comments are always open for any questions or feedback. If you haven't already done so, please consider a YouTube subscription. It's free, it helps me out a lot. I have a Blue Sky, a Discord, and a Patreon, links to which are in the video description below. I will be back later this week with more daily FaB gameplay, and until then, take care.